Hello, everyone. Sorry about my mishap on Wednesday. I don't know what happened. It's very interesting that I was able to get online. Online. I was able to get on base um, Monday driving the same car, but this time Wednesday they had an issue with it. So my apologies. So I'm going to bring you uh, chapter one notes and have a quick lecture, and then also I'm going to talk briefly about chapter two. I'm going to send a video for chapter two as well. So let's get started. Chapter one. So chapter one is basically an introduction to human development, and I want you guys more than anything to be able to think about these terms and these things from your own personal experiences, because that's going to enhance your learning experience. We can try and be really sterile and go over just terms and definitions and stuff, and it doesn't have any significance to you, because what I want you guys to understand is that you use psychology, and psychology is very relevant in your everyday life. It's just that we don't realize it. So let's get started. So what is human development? Well, to me, human development is how we change or how we stay the same throughout our lifespan. And that's the easiest definition that we can use. For example, if you are a parent, everybody in the world have parents, unless you was created in the lab, but everybody have parents. So let's look at some reoccurring issues that we're going to see throughout human development. Some of the things that we're going to see throughout human development is nature versus nurture. And the simplest way to put and explain nature versus nurture is nature is pretty much what we're born with. Nurture is how our environment influences our development. So those are some things to keep in mind. Nature is what we're born with. Nurture is environmental factors. Then we have continuity versus discontinuity. And what that is, continuity is when development is smooth. Some people say, oh, development is smooth and it never has any ups and downs, lefts and rights. Well, we know that that's not true, because if you look at the example that I just gave about all of a sudden having to take care of an ill parent or older parent, that's a big change. That's not that's not showing that development is smooth. So discontinuity would be the ups and downs throughout a person's lifespan, lifespan. So then we have universal versus context specific development. That's saying that development has one path, that everybody follows that same path. And context versus context specific says that everybody develop differently. And well, what are some of the factors that would support context specific? Well, some of the factors that will support context specific is things like we're on a military base, so being in the military, that lifestyle is going to look different from anybody else, because people who are not in the military wouldn't understand the things that come with being a military wife or being a mom that's active duty. So yes, that would make my marriage and life look different from somebody else who is experiencing that. So no, there's not one path. No, there's multiple differences in people when you take into consideration ethnicity, culture, society, socioeconomic status. Those things changes people's path. So then let's talk about the four basic forces. There's four basic forces that's going to influence development. Biological, which is genetic and health. Psychological, which is cognitive, emotional, personality. Sociocultural, that's societal, cultural, and ethnicity and ethnic issues. Then life cycle, that's like how the same event can affect people of different ages. So if you think about one of the most significant events that I can recall is 9/11. When you think about 9/11, it affected people in different ways depending on what your age range was. I mean, that had a significant effect on us as a society and everything. But then if you break it down to being age specific, some people in our class was only 5 or 6 or 7. That's hard to believe, but yes, I've taught classes where some of the students was as young as 10, and then some of us was adults. I was in college myself when 9/11 happened. So yes, it affected people in different ways. And then we move to I want you guys to pay close attention to the different theories. Mainly the two that I really want you guys to pay attention to is Erikson and Piaget. Totally different realms. Erikson is more has more psychosocial, because he's a contemporary of Freud, Sigmund Freud. So if any of you are not familiar with Sigmund Freud is like what they call the father of modern day psychology. He's the father of psychoanalytic theory. Anything with Freud is always going to have some, from a psychoanalytic standpoint, anything with Freud is going to always have like stuff about sexual urges, drives, conflicts, all of those type of things. Well, Erikson is a contemporary of his, which just means he's a student of, he's come from a psychoanalytic standpoint. He was one of Sigmund Freud's first students, Erikson. He came up with 8 stages of development. We're going to talk about that throughout this whole book. And if you don't remember anything from this class, please remember Erikson 8 stages. And so what Erikson did was that he broke development down in 8 stages. And he said, well, you know, and in his 8 stages, he said there's always going to be some type of conflict or some type of thing that the person of that particular age need to get over. And if they do not, then you're going to see significant deficits as they get older in relationships and how they function in society, in the world, in the culture, in their families. So that's Erikson 8 stages, kind of like in a nutshell. We're going to go through each one more specific as we go throughout the chapters. And then there's Piaget. Piaget comes from a cognitive standpoint. His stages of development focuses more on cognitive, how we think, how we process. That is Piaget. It's very interesting because he breaks down how the brain processes information according to what age range you're in, and we're going to talk about that later on as well. Then you have information processing, and information processing basically looks at development from a computer, like in the sense that we're like a computer, so you have hardware and software. It kind of goes into the cognitive theories as well. How do we process information? How does memory work? All of those type of things. That's information processing. And then you have your behavioral perspective. That's totally looking at how we behave. Whenever you start to talk about behavior, you have to remember Pavlov, Skinner, and Watson. I think that's who I'm trying to think of. All of those fit into the behavioral categories, and basically they come from the standpoint that you can create a person and make a person, well, not make, you can train a person to exhibit behaviors that are favorable, the ones that you want to see, and so through rewards and punishments. That's the way that behavioral theorists think about things. So those are kind of like your 4 basic ones that we talk about pretty much in our that we're going to be talking about in our class. So how do we know that any of this work? How do we know that any of this is valid? Through research. Research is so important. And to hit on your assignment for this week, I want to talk about naturalistic observation. So naturalistic observation is a type of research in which a psychologist will go and look at people in their natural surroundings to look at certain behaviors. So if I wanted to observe how students behave during a fire drill, then I would go and observe students at school, and when the fire drill happens, then I would observe behavior. Well, we know that every day that I go, there may not be a fire drill. So what can I do? I can simulate an environment where we actually have the fire drill to see the behavior that I'm looking for. Even though it's still in this natural environment. So let's talk about what your assignment is for this week. Your assignment for this week would be, I want you guys to go anywhere where you're going to be for 10 minutes or more. If you like, I personally like to go to Panera. And if I went to Panera, then I would say, I want to look at how people behave when they're holding the door and open the door, and what are some factors that cause people to hold the door or not to hold the door. Who's more likely to hold the door? Is it men? Is it women? Is it blacks? Is it white? Is it Asian? Is it Spanish? I just want to look at that. You can observe behavior anywhere that you go. And what I want you guys to do is be somewhere where you like to be, whether it's in the mall, whether it's at your church or at your local place of worship. It does not matter. I just want you to observe people and how they behave. Now, when you write your summary, please be specific to let me know what you're actually observing, so that I'm not lost throughout this paper when I'm reading it, trying to figure out, well, what are they observing? So I'm leaving it open to you guys to choose your place, to choose your behavior, to choose your topic or whatever. Main thing is I want you guys to have fun. I want you guys to make it personal. So if you go to the gym a lot and that's your thing, then why not do your observation at the gym? If you're always with your kids at some type of sporting event, why not do your observation there? It's so many things that you can observe. You can observe men and women interaction with each other. You can observe kids interacting with each other. You can observe what you perceive as the kid that everybody likes, how they behave differently from the kids that's kind of like the social outcast, because we know that is a reality, and we're going to talk about that later on in the chapter. So just think of anything that is significant to you that you want to observe at a place that matters to you or that you're going to be anyway. Now, guys, please don't go to a playground or a place where there's a lot of kids and sit there looking pervy, because that's kind of gross. If you don't have a kid there, then that might look a little weird. I'm just joking with you guys. I want you guys to have fun and to really explore and mainly just get in there and try it and see what it's like. And then, also you're going to see in the instructions to express, how did it feel actually watching people? Was it hard? Was it easy? Those are the kind of things that I want to see in your paper, in your description of what the process felt like. And how did it make you feel knowing that you was going to write this information down after observing? So I hope you guys do well. If you have any questions, please make sure that you send me a text message or an email, and I will see you guys on Monday. Watch the next video, because that's going to give a description of what we're going to do for chapter 2. All right, thank you guys. Bye.